Welcome everybody to this week's guide on permitted development, answering all your questions that we commonly get asked and addressing a few misconceptions. So let's start off by asking Gabby your questions. So first of all, what types of builds can fall under permitted development?
There's actually lots of different things you can do to your home to improve it under permitted development. You can build different extensions, you can build a porch, you can convert your loft, you can even build outbuildings in your garden. But it's very, very, very important to not assume that you don't need planning permission. There's loads of different rules and regulations that apply to every different aspect of building work, so you've got to check that before assuming.
So can you talk me through some of these rules that apply to permitted development? Yeah,
sure. So if you look at the example of, let's say, a single-storey rear extension, the main rules that we'd look at are, is the build going to be in a green belt or a conservation area? You can only cover up to 50% of the area of land around your original house with additions or outbuildings. We'd also look at materials, so anything that we're going to build out of needs to be of similar appearance to what's on your building at the moment.
Okay, so how far can I extend out?
So it depends. If you're in a detached property, you can go out by 4 metres. Any other property would be 3 metres. There's also height restrictions, so the overall height must be 4 metres, so the ridge height, a maximum of 4 metres. There's other things as well, like weird and wonderful rules surrounding moving a soil pipe and balconies and things like that. So this isn't all of the things we'd look at, but we would assess that for you. And it's important to remember that there's a different set of rules for every different build type.
So can I just start building then if I think my build falls under permitted development?
The technical answer to this is yes, you can. However, we would always really strongly recommend against just doing that. What we would suggest is that you get something called a lawful development certificate first. So to get one of these, you apply into the council and they will assess your architectural drawings and they'll assess them against the permitted development guidelines to make sure that everything is above board and correct. And they would then issue a lawful development certificate. Now what this means is this is just saying, yes, your build is lawful, you can go ahead with that, it fits within permitted development rights. It's great to have before you start doing anything, because you don't want to get part way through and then you've missed something or forgotten something. And it's also really, really good to have if you ever sell your property in the future.
So if I want to extend my semi-detached house further than 3 metres, do I need to go for planning permission?
No, not always. So if it meets the permitted development rights, you can extend out further than 3 metres under a different application type, and this is called prior approval. So sticking to the case of a single-storey rear extension, in that case, if you wanted to go out further for a detached property, you could go out up to 8 metres, so you get an additional 4 metres. On a semi-detached like yours or other properties, you can go out up to 6 metres, so an additional 3, so it's quite a big difference. So again, we'd go into the council and they would assess it and issue a document to say prior approval for this build is not required and yes, you're okay to build that. So a big one here to look at would be right to light issues, because obviously if you're extending out further, there's a bigger chance that we could be hindering your neighbouring property's right to light. We would look at that and we would try to prove otherwise, so that it could be approved by the council. It's not the only case where prior approval can be applied, so it can be applied if you create an additional stories to your property, doing demolition work or landscaping developments, different things like that.
So what happens if I've built something, it doesn't meet the criteria and it doesn't fall under permitted development?
Okay, so what could happen in this instance is you will probably receive a letter, an enforcement letter from the council, and this will generally just be asking you to go in for something called retrospective planning permission. So what we'd do then is go in for planning permission saying that it's already built, and they would assess it and then hopefully pass it retrospectively. In worst case scenarios, you could be ordered to amend the build so it can fit into their guidelines, or even in some cases you could be asked to demolish it.
So does a lawful development certificate cost the same as a planning application?
No, the good news is It's about £100 less than your standard household and planning application.
So I've heard all these stories about people taking ages to get the planning applications through, like 6 months. But ideally, I want to start my build as soon as possible. Will a lawful development certificate take as long?
So timescale wise, every council is different, and obviously things will fluctuate through the year. But generally, they are much quicker. So you'll be looking around 4 to 8 weeks for a lawful development certificate to come through. Much quicker than a lot of planning applications.
So where can I find out more information if I want to check these guides?
There's loads of handy information online, so something really useful is called the planning portal. So if you just search that on Google, and then if you click on do you need permission, and then go to the interactive guide tab, it's really easy to use, and you can get on there specific build aspects and guidelines. Make sure you click on the learn more button, because that gives you the more in-depth rule book, if you want to call it that. We have added the link below to hopefully make this a bit quicker for you.
Thanks for all that information, Gabby. We hope that gave you an insight into permitted development, although we probably only just scratched the surface of what falls under there. Next week we'll look at submissions using the planning portal, so we will touch on what we mentioned about where you can find the information. Thanks for watching, and as always, subscribe to our YouTube channel using the button below, and always like and follow us on all our social media channels. We will see you here again next week.